resolve and sure grittiness.
It starts with an attitude. We need swagger, okay? Regardless of what happens out there. Doesn't matter. Keep your swagger.
Welcome to the Five-Hole Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the fantasy hockey podcast that now returns you to your regularly scheduled programming. We're your hosts tonight, Alan and Jay. Jay, did you guys get a snowpocalypse up in Canada like earlier this week? Like I know here in the Midwest, like they made it sound like get your French toast ingredients ready, like hunker down.
Oh, it was absolutely everywhere in Canada. I mean, it's funny too, because where I'm at in Canada, like snowpocalypse is just a regular old Wednesdays. But yeah, absolutely. It's stay safe, folks. My goodness, it's winter for sure. January and 2025 with our roll.
But hey, the days should start getting longer now. But as always, guys, the YouTube channel, please like, subscribe. We're trying to get to that 1,000 magic follower number. Discord, we have 2,700 other fantasy hockey connoisseurs out there, and follow us on Twitter/X at FHFH Hockey, and the website. TJ is toiling away tirelessly to get some tools going on it. That's FHFhockey.com. And a little bit of housekeeping before we get going. We'll take, in the interest of keeping this episode a decent amount of time, we'll take the first couple questions that come in the chat, and we'll throw that in with our mailbag as we go over the notes here. But now, news from around the league. Storylines, really the big thing is tonight's LA Calgary game has been postponed due to wildfires in the LA area. Anyone out there listening, good God, stay safe. Hopefully you are far away by now. No announcement as to when they'll reschedule that game, but far more important things going on right now. Injuries. Sean Monahan, the Columbus Blue Jackets, left last night's game with an upper body injury. He was seen in a wrist splint post game. Fantilli moved up to the top line with Voronkov and Marchenko, and he had an assist in a power play goal. I'm not sure if he'll keep that or not. We'll see. Now, I did talk to a couple different Blue Jackets fans today. Apparently, that wrist thing he was wearing is something he wears pretty regularly, so this may not be a wrist issue. The bigger concern is concussion, because he was cross-checked into the boards head first. But back to fantasy relevance, Jay, Fantilli, 10% owned. Are we running out to grab him? That line has been just amazing this season. Yeah,
I mean, they have a 3-game schedule next week. Like, again, I'm hesitant to just absolutely unload all over guys that are, have deployment upside immediately. Mind you, at 10%, I think that's a pretty what do you call it? Like a
swing. It's pretty widely available. Yeah.
100% swing for the fences. Just at the same time, if you are rostering a Monahan and are affected by these news, for example, you probably can make do with the available waiver wire, spot that is now opened up with Monahan joining your IR plus. So I would say for Fantilli, instead of just smashing into Fantilli all the way back in, I guess PT ad reference, my goodness. So the word choice is incredible. Yours truly. But yeah, so the big question would be more so, does a 3-game, and let's see, even the week following that, right? Like Columbus still has.
Oh, I didn't even look at the week ahead.
Like the week following. Okay, so not the January 13th week, but the upcoming January 13th week. No one cares about that Columbus schedule. It's a really bad 3-game heavy night schedule. Maybe for the ensuing week, if Monahan is still out and Fantilli is still roaring hot, then maybe that's a good target at that point. But that's the big one, where when you have available waiver wire slots that open up with these guys. And Monahan again wasn't even drafted going into a lot of these leagues as well. I think the play is less so about immediately snagging his backup as opposed to, like seeing what available like in the overall pool is around.
So you're
And then
saying
obviously
maybe you opened up a streamer spot.
more so than a Fantilli jump.
All right. Next up, Alex Lyon left last night's game with an upper body injury. Didn't see what happened there. Red Wings are one of those teams that are heating up right now. Like, I think this Eastern wildcard race is going to be just nuts the next couple months. Red Wings are now on a 5-game win streak. Do we think Talbot? I mean, if we need goalie help, or you had Lyon, I mean, do we think Talbot's worth grabbing? I mean, he's kind of equally as prone to injury too, but they've been much better.
Holy shit, look at who they're playing. Seattle, St. Louis, the Sharks. Fuck yeah, Alan. Get that Lion roar. Oh, no, not get that Lion. Get that Talbot.
He's got the thorn in his paw, whatever it is.
Yeah. Absolutely. Get Cam the man. Bring him on the team.
I just got an update. It does appear that Sean Monahan's injury is wrist related. I knew it was a bad sign when they did call up someone from the minors. He had a very big, fancy European name. I forget his name, but he's in the Cleveland Monsters. But next up, Valerie Nichushkin will not travel with the team on this current road trip. And Jonathan Drouin has another boo-boo and won't play tonight. Sounds like he will play Thursday versus Minnesota. Yeah, man, that lineup's looking pretty shallow again. I know I personally picked up Ross Colton, hoping he'd see some of that, but it looks like that top line tonight is Lehkonen, McKinnon, Rantanen, but doesn't look like it's doing much for him tonight. They just lost 3-1 to the Blackhawks.
To the Blackhawks.
Yeah, to the Blackhawks. Last one, Morrissey, the Winnipeg Jets is day-to-day with a lower body injury, but could be back Friday. Unfortunately, if he's out any kind of long-term, Neil Pionk is 86% owned. And I imagine he would be who slots up into that next slot. So I don't think there's much fantasy relevance there to discuss, especially if he could be back Friday. Now for returns. Oh, Parker Kelly. I don't know. We'll have to see tomorrow's practice. Like, if
I'm absolutely trolling Alan.
Okay.
That's
you never
level.
know, dude. Like, who did Florida put when Adam Boquist didn't work out? Like, something Ukrainian sounding. I forget.
Okay, now you're on me. Now I'm on the.
I think he's still on the roster, or maybe he's sent out to the minors.
Samiskevich.
No. It was a defenseman.
Oh, Belinskis.
Yes, that guy.
We found both of them. And honestly, guys, I'm so sorry for finding them all. There's really no value there. Please move on.
But yeah, for returns, Philip Hronik edging closer to her return. Got sent to their AHL team for a conditioning stint. That's talk about a team that needs help in front of whatever goalie is there right now. Especially with all these trade rumors flying. Kind of like last minute and at great expense. Jake Middleton returned for the Minnesota Wild last night. He had a goal and an assist last night. With all these injuries to their blue line, like Brock Faber also left the game last night. Spurgeon's out. I think there's like one or two other guys. I think they had to recall Juracek on an emergency basis. Like, do we think Middleton's worth a grab? There weren't any power plays for Minnesota last night, so it's hard to tell who would get that power play spot if it's, if that's valuable to you for that team. But yeah, do we think Middleton's worth a grab right now?
I mean, they play what? So 3 games in the next 4 nights, obviously 2 heavy nights as well, but for sure, absolutely, in terms of if you can slot him in. That's the big one, right? Please check if Middleton can slot in. I absolutely would add Middleton if I could, just to get 3 games for the next little bit. And that's a nice little trial run to see a guy as well, right? Mind you, the other part that's really good is Minnesota only has 2 games the following week. So
there we go. It sounds like we want to sit on Middleton and see how that all shakes out.
And the other part is too, you can even grab him for the remainder of this week and safely punt him out afterwards. And I think he's probably just going to sit on the wire regardless, right? Like what manager is going to sit on a Middleton that plays 2 games only?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what you do with your studs is you hold through those weeks, but no, not someone like Middleton who you might have picked up maybe for this week with their schedule, but yeah, not for next week. And then last one here, Thatcher Demko is serving as the backup tonight, which is optimistic. But Elias Pettersson is still out tonight. I know he was a game time decision. So yeah, hopefully all you guys just held on to Lincoln in there and didn't immediately toss him to the wire as soon as Demko came back.
And that game's going into geez, I don't know if I want to speak.
Sounds
too soon,
like
but
it.
looks like it's going to OT, right? Yeah. So obviously, am I seeing this right? He's only got 14 saves. That's a low shot game for sure.
The Caps, wow, that is low shooting.
Wow. Okay. But yeah, I was gonna say, like, if there's only one goal going like 50, 59 plus minutes into a game, like obviously Lankinen's doing work as well. Yeah, I would say there's really no value for a lot of fantasy managers in that crease at the moment in terms of pickups or anything. What's 88%, 67%? The only other guy that you could take is Shelovs, and don't do it to yourself.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, I guess back to Middleton real quick. Armin does have a good question. Like, I'm not sure Middleton, he was great with blocks, but he's definitely getting points. But I have no idea who that top power play would be, because they didn't have any power play time last night. I wouldn't be surprised if they try Juracek.
I think Craig was the guy that
prospect.
I think Craig was the guy that said it though, right? Like that power play just doesn't run through.
No. So yeah, you're not grabbing him for you're getting Middleton for those random points he stumbles into.
Yeah, and at that point, I don't know, man. 6 and 9, you know what I mean? Through how many games? 30 games? Well, I mean, like he's guaranteeing you half a point. He's guaranteeing you a point per every other game. There's definitely another guy you could target for a hold. You know what I mean? For a hold.
But with that, let's hit the mailbag.
You've got mail. Mailbag.
I'll take a couple from the chat first. Ryan, Gensel and Bob or Kaprizov, bangers season long. That's toughy because Kaprizov's out right now, so it's hard to really gauge. But I mean, Gensel playing with Kucherov, line 1, power play 1. I think he's on a higher point pace than he ever was playing with Crosby, which is insane. And we all know Bobrovsky to me is a fraud.
I mean, listener, you also have to understand it's Alan's favorite team, and then the rivalry team.
I know, yeah. I know. God, like how many years did it take that team for that contract to finally be worth it?
Holy smokes, yeah.
And what, how much roster deconstruction had to happen. I kind of want Kaprizov. Like,
it's also
yeah, he'll put you up points, but I don't think it's going to be the same amount or types of points. But I mean, Bob, again, bona fide starter. He will see puck. Like, I don't know. I still see Kaprizov as like that top 10 overall skater. Like, I think I would rather have Kaprizov.
I mean, this has the rakings of all those Matthews trade, swirlings about at the same time, because this is his 6th game out, and I want to say not just his 6th, but also his 7th, maybe. I want to say, like, is he out tonight? Oh no, sorry, they don't play tonight. It's tomorrow, right? So if he's out, if Kaprizov is out tomorrow as well, that's not just his.
Yeah, and like Armin is pointing out, depending on when your playoffs are, I think I did see that Minnesota, if you go all the way to week 25, the final week, Minnesota does have one of the better playoff schedules.
Right. It's one where it's going to be a depressed value regardless, because people would not be considering trading Kaprizov were he not out now. right? So I think just looking at that value right now, you're basically banking on, like, why would you be trading Kaprizov? I'm assuming it's because you're banking that he's going to
Miss quite a bit of
miss
time. Yeah.
extended time going forward. I don't know. Mind you, he is listed on IR, right? IR indicated that he's not even skating at the moment. He should be still out past this weekend, and I don't know how further beyond that weekend will be. At this point, he's missed what? He's projected to miss at least 10% of the season, right? So it's not an insignificant amount of time. Mind you, at the same time, if he's healthy, would you even be looking at these guys at trade? You probably would not, right? Like, I don't.
Ekblad is in tonight. I forgot to double check.
So
I think sorry. So it looks like the only other question is here, and I think it's related to what Paraterran's laundry list that I kind of pruned down. Who do we shop Stolars for? Goals, assists, power play, well, special teams points, shots, hits, blocks. That's 5 goalie categories. I don't know, Jay. I think some fan of Toronto will overpay for Stolars, even with the injury history.
PT, are you looking for a skater or a goalie? That's probably a good question. I would request as well, right? Because Stolars for another goalie.
Yeah, so we're looking for a skater.
He's looking for a skater. Oh.
Maybe one of those kind of around point per game-ish guys. Because obviously Stolars, when he's healthy, he's going to get you wins. Possibly even some shutouts, depending on how Toronto's playing that day. I would aim for kind of like around a point per game guy. Like, don't try to shoot for those like top 10 guys, like 100-point guys, but maybe around a point per game guy.
Man, just looking at some of these lists for the guys in the top of the league, it's so wild, right? So you have like Kyle Connor, obviously got drafted so low, but is like absolutely performing. Like, it's early season too, right? The early part of the season.
If you got Kyle Connor, that'd be awesome. But yeah, no, I kind of like this. Here we go. This short list of teams here. Yeah, maybe. All right. So someone on Dallas, some of those guys that are like maybe like a Rupe Hintz. Maybe like Matt Duchene's kind of cooled off a little,
but I would say, for example, as
large part of their offense down the stretch.
As a skater, for example, that I would probably say is too high for Stolars would be like if you went to Nashville and you were like at the top two, like the two towers, so to speak, that you were trying to get. I think Forsberg's out of reach. I think Yossi's out of reach. If you're trying to,
I don't know. Yossi hasn't. I mean, Nashville as a whole is not as great this season. I think Yossi might be obtainable. I just don't know if Stolars alone does it.
Right. I can see that. Right. Oh, but I don't know if it's like a package worthwhile to receive Yossi back, right? Because if you're going Stolars, are you saying someone less of a lesser
I was about to say,
value?
yeah, use Stolars plus, like one of your defensemen to upgrade to Yossi kind of thing. That's how I'd look at it. But yeah, that would be my mission. And if I could get like one of those kind of, especially again, if I know that this person loves Toronto, like leverage that and just be like, yeah, like here you go, give me, shoot for like about a point per game guy.
Like it.
Now we'll hit up the Discord mailbag there. DJ68, JJ Paterka. I've held him all year. 10-man points league. Fish or cut bait with this guy. Oh man, how did I not put any notes in there? Let me double check his point pace again. Because I want to say he was pacing for about 60, 65 points. And I feel like in a 10-man, you're going to get, that's probably about what's on the wire. Yeah, right now he's pacing for 63 points. His shooting percentage is nice, right in line. Shot rate is right in line with career. I think in a 10-man, you're going to, like, JJ Paterka might be a guy you, like, pick up and drop on the regular, as depending on schedule. I don't know, Jay.
The big one with Paterka too is he can absolutely pop off and become basically Boldy. But is that this year? He's 270th overall in the ranking. I mean, he's dual eligible. He's scoring, right? Like this is with him scoring, right? So everything else you're complaining about in terms of production is you can't blame the scoring. So what
Right.
else is he doing? And I think he's just not giving you enough elsewhere. He just doesn't hit. He doesn't block. He's, like he does stuff on the power play already too.
Yeah. And I mean, Buffalo has been heating up lately, but who knows what happens come real NHL trade deadline. Here we go. Armin is saying that Buffalo does have a good fantasy playoff schedule. So this might be something, maybe you leverage it in like a 2-for-1 trade, or again, he might just be at that threshold where I feel like at a 10-man, you could pick someone up who's pacing similarly.
Well,
and
if you're
pick him up, drop him based on schedule.
But the other one is if you're playing in a perfect league, like how many, I don't even know, like, okay, so let's say 10 teams, 160, let's say 16 slots for players and everything. Let's assume no IRs and all that jazz and everything. Wouldn't you be wanting in a perfect league the top 160 players to be rostered? If the guy is 270th, you are like, let's not even say top 200. You know what I mean? Like when you're doing the math and everything, top 270, you are paying a lot for probably a guy that you don't need to be. And then further, you could really be grabbing other way more valuable guys that can immediately help you now. If you're grabbing for playoff schedules too, like you better be prepping for week 1. But if you're doing well enough, you can already be prepping for the second playoff.
Yeah, if you know you have the bye, like
the bye and everything. So I don't know, man. See, here's the sucky part.
And that's what, what, I think I saw it earlier. I think Buffalo has one of the higher amount of off nights, if I remember right. Because there was a question later. I think it was one of Armin's questions dealing with playoffs. Yeah, I think Buffalo had one of the higher off night counts. So yeah, I'd say it depends on what your strategy is. Like if you're just trying to stay alive week to week, I think like Jay said, he's ranked like 270th or whatever. Yeah, he might be at that threshold where that's your streamer spot.
And another example too, if you're targeting Buffalo, it ain't like Paterka's got a hold on every Buffalo claim ever. There are other Buffalo guys too. Jason Zucker.
Yeah, like Zucker. Yeah.
But like dude is popping off line 1, power play 1, 33% owned, just as owned and less owned as Paterka. Is he available in your league? Like he probably is friggin' available in your league. And you might be holding Paterka over Zucker. And that's one of those there where you just sit there and you realize like Zucker is not the sole Jesus. There are other players.
And I do feel like Zucker is probably a guy on that team that he's the sidecar. Like if something goes wrong, they need to mix things up. He's probably the guy that moves down.
100%. But there's going to be other sidecars you can pop on other teams first. Like guys, it's far in advance for sure, but still only week 14. You know what I mean? Like there's still like 9 weeks to go before playoffs roll.
Yeah. So it sounds like we're both kind of like this is depending on your strategy. This guy is probably on a fringe in a 10-man.
He has upside for sure. He's a dark side for sure. Don't marry him now. Not now. No, not yet. Not yet.
So next up, Swiss Cheese on Discord. Hudson, Lacombe, Fowler. Which one do you drop? I feel like this is a toughie.
Oh, especially with that news recently with what happened with like there has been a shakeup in the Montreal power play 1, isn't there?
Yeah, I think so. And that's actually there's another question later on dealing with Montreal, but no, that was what I was looking. Montreal has one of the better playoff schedules, so Hudson I think is a lot. He might be a rest of the season hold. Lacombe, I don't know. He's hot right now, but yeah, I don't have high expectations for the Ducks. But yeah, Fowler also hot right now. I think it remains to be seen if Fowler keeps power play 1 on the Blues, which I know TJ went over a couple weeks ago. Like no defenseman on the Blues has finished with more than I think it was 20 or 25 power play points in years.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I kind of agree with Armin Lacombe is the drop there.
I really don't. Okay, I know for sure Hudson is not the drop, right? Like Hudson, there's just too much upside there. Lacombe, I would say in a similar vein, there's upside, but the problem there is it's the same issue as Paterka. Lacombe probably has one of the higher upsides of all three guys 3 or 4 seasons from now, right? Like for
Yeah,
this
we got to think
season,
even further into the future. I mean, Fowler. I mean, Torrey Krug's been out all season. Like, you know, if we're rolling into next season, now they now have Krug, Fowler, and Falk. Like, yeah, someone really gets the short stick long term. But yeah, no, I think Lacombe.
yeah, I'd probably say Lacombe for the rest of this season.
And then this other question, and this is 12 team cats. Do we drop Tippett for a streamer spot? I forget the exact details as to why, but I feel like the answer is yes. Even in a 12 team, he was pacing for something silly. Yeah, 48 points. He's down a little bit. I mean, it looks like that's just kind of who he is like a 45-ish, 55-ish point pace guy or point guy. And his deployment is kind of all over the place, with it being a Torts team.
And I mean,
I know he was dropped in our tier of the listener league. I mean, someone immediately scooped him up.
Right.
But I would say, yeah, the threshold is like, if does this guy like helping you win the week, or is he a cardio merchant?
He's basically like the Pacific Ocean, man. It's like islands of scoring punctuated by oceans of nothingness, right? And it's just it's not a fantasy relevant play style, right? Like the most extreme version is Zibanejad, where he did nothing for a while, then scored 5 goals in a game, right? But I don't know, man. In terms of Tippett, right now he's ranked 100th. I think in a 12-teamer, right, where you're feasibly seeing what 100.
I mean, the waiver wire gets pretty thin, pretty quick,
for sure. Like if I'm devil's advocating this, right? So he's left wing, right wing, L1, PP1. Are there that many other guys on your roster, or rephrase, are there any other guys on the waiver wire that have that sort of deployment available as well? Because if there is an ideal week to drop him, I don't think this week would be a bad one, right? Like, heavy nights only remaining. What about the next week? Next week, however, is a pretty good week relatively, like back-to-back to start the week. 4-game week for sure. I mean, they play only heavy nights, but like if you are frustrated with the player or you're really looking for a roster spot, I would probably look at their schedule and try to hope for like an upcoming 2-gamer and then possibly entertain it, as opposed to like, this is an upcoming week where there's going to be a 4-game week and you're going to drop him. And it's one where, what if he turns on his Jets just so often on a time where it's a game where you weren't going to be able, like, you didn't have him on the time because you were frustrated with his deployment. And then the other guy now holds on to him.
Like, hopefully you didn't spend a ton of draft capital on him, but I feel like depending on where you got him, like in the draft, or how you got him, and then how long you've been holding him, this is probably one of the lower guys on your roster so far this season.
The other one is, this is probably less so like, oh wow, he's so shit. It's probably not that. It's just the team overall is playing a very grind out style of hockey that is not going to lead him to, glory land every single night, so to speak.
And Tortorella teams just historically have shitty power plays. Like, that's
100%.
If you look at his tenure at the Blue Jackets, man, they were like 30th, 31st. Like, even here in Philly, like they don't have one of the better power plays. It's just not something he cares about.
Like,
apparently.
Frost, Farabee, like, no offense to the guys, but you're kind of limited by who else you're playing with in terms of like your available scoring as well. Yeah. I would say in general, after leading you through all of that, I would say in terms of, is he, absolutely the guy that you're going to drop or whatever and change? I would say realize that he's going to be, probably your safer floor. He gets tons of shots. He hits consistently. Is that enough for you? Like, this is what he will be. Is that enough for you? It might be.
Oh no, yeah, especially in a Cats league week to week, where he's not getting you goals and assists, but he's filling the other items. So next is Andrew on Discord. Does Tom Wilson keep up his performance all year long, or should I sell while he's still high? ESPN standard scoring with points per ifs. I had no idea what the scoring is, but just overall looking at Tom Wilson here, he is pacing for 64 points, which is much higher than his career or the last several years. What sticks out to me right now, like big red flag, his shooting percentage is 19.4. His career is 12.4. Like even his better years, he had like 15.9. I say, yeah, abso-freaking-lutely. If you can get something for him, sell him now.
I'm gonna go the opposite version, Alan, and what I'm gonna say
No?
is just
Okay.
this Washington team is really clicking, and more importantly, this team could lose every single game, even as a President's Trophy winner, and still consider the season a win, so long as Ovi breaks the record.
I mean,
And you
so
want to
did they win the cup in 18-19 or 17-18?
17-18.
17-18? Yeah, that season he only had like 37 points, like 250 hits. So, I mean, he's still pacing for about the same number of hits, which is really why you want him in any sort of league that tracks peripherals is he scores, but he hits a ton. That's what I mean. Like, I guess back to UJ, but like, I still don't see that 64 points actually coming to fruition. I think there's definitely some room for regression in points, like hits. The other stuff he's right in line with.
I just feel like their team is going to be in so many positive situations where he's going to be like Wilson is a very jackknife. No, what am I? Not jackknife.
Swiss Army knife.
Swiss Army knife. He's a Swiss Army knife, right? In the sense that his team's behind doesn't matter. He's going to be chasing guys, getting pissed off, angry, racking up penalty minutes, hitting dudes. Like, great, when he's behind. When he's ahead, like he's going to be the guy that's still, grinding, getting in the way of the puck. He's going to roll forward. He's going to dive for the ugly empty netter goal. Like everything about Wilson's game is fantasy relevant. He's the opposite of Miro Heiskanen, basically.
Yeah. I mean, like Armin said, like I'm surprised he's kind of on power play one. I mean, they have Chikrin there this season, and it seems like he's come a long way. But why not put the other maybe equally as good Connor Mick on the power play one and Connor McMichael? Unless Wilson's like your net front guy. I guess I haven't seen enough of Washington's power play to know. So Andrew, you have one sell high now, one hold season long.
You might as well ride, in my theory, basically alongside this mindset. Ovi is going to break the Great One's record.
It's a matter of one. Yeah.
Everything about that team is geared toward ensuring that Ovi is going to get there, right? So you look at all their power play one guys, you look at all their setups and things, it's basically Ovi and the gang, Ovi and the boys, like doing their shit. So don't you want one of Ovi's boys? I think you do. He's like the only one that can be accessible via like everyone else isn't, you know what I mean, on that power play one. Like he's the least owned of all, and he's still 67%, right? So I definitely think, obviously, you're not going to drop him for anything, for a bag of pucks or whatnot. But the other one is, who in the world are you going to target him for? Like, obviously, there's guys where it's like a no-brainer, like top 10 guy, 100% snap. I'm not saying hold Wilson over any of those guys. But Alan, could we give even a realistic dude? Like, if we're saying, oh yeah, like sell him for like what, Nelson's upside? Like
maybe one of the I don't know, like someone like freaking like Natchez or something, like someone who has such a stupid high upside, but like they're slumping hard. Like you could probably go like for Zibanejad, like Tom Wilson for Zibanejad. There you go. Someone who, I mean, and especially if Zibanejad moves, like that he's the guy that's coming out of New York for something, like, oh my gosh, like that could drastically improve the situation. Next up I have this is in PT's laundry list. I liked this kind of question the most. Is Lacombe sustainable, and is Harley finally waking up? So both of these guys are still kind of like big question marks. They haven't actually played a ton of games. Lacombe, especially, only 106 games. Last season, he had 17 points in 71 games, which is not kind of impressive at all. Right now, he's on a 42-point pace. I think he's. I think my note there says he's shooting at 12.5%, which is ridiculous. Especially for a defenseman. I think average for a defenseman is like 5 or 6. But I think really to sustain even that 40 kind of point pace, he needs more time on ice, like more time on ice, period. Like he's getting less than 20 minutes a night and more power play share. He's only getting 34% right now, and maybe that'll increase with Fowler out, but I don't think Fowler was really taking the lion's share anyway. And then Harley, he's got 6 points in his last 4. He's currently on a 47-point pace versus 49 last year. All right, so we're trending in the right direction here. He's also only played 156 games, so we really don't know who kind of he is. I think the stat I saw earlier today is I think it's around 300 point threshold where we kind of really see like if someone's going to break out, this is it. He's got a 7.1 shooting percentage this season versus 10.4 last year. And again, like I said, the average D is like 5.3. So he's still, and maybe he's just a high efficiency shooter. But I wish, but this year I will say the nice thing is he is seeing more time on ice in all situations. I kind of wish they would just try Harley out on power play one man. Like Heiskanen clearly just doesn't really do much, at least fantasy relevance. But I don't see why they don't just give Harley a shot. What's the worst that could happen?
I was also wondering if I watched bits and pieces of that game, but I didn't see Harley's goal in particular. And I was trying to remember if the goals and the assists he had were power play related or if they were equal strength and all that.
I can check real quick.
He's it looks awesome. Like you look at his stats, 4 points the last 2 games, 3 points in his last game. Wow, it sounds amazing. It's just that was with the barn burner, right? With the Rangers.
Yeah.
It's tougher when a question is just like, oh yeah, like are they back? It's like
interesting. So in it was OT. You have different people out on the ice in OT.
Yeah, it was 4-3. Yeah.
It's 5-4. So both of his assists were power play, but that one in OT is a power play goal, but the other people on it were Jamie Benn and Jason Robertson, right, who were like top power play guys. But his goal was at even strength. But it looks like his other power play assist, Dadonov, Maverick, Bork, like definitely a power play too.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. So I think really to see these guys like be more fantasy relevant, like we gotta. But yeah, as far as Harley waking up, he's doing what he did last year. So yes, for him, he is waking up. But Lacombe sustainable? Probably not. I'd say this is a hot streak.
Yeah, I would say the other one with Lacombe too is it's just he's where he's an exact recreation of Jacob Chychrun. Yeah, where he had that really, really awesome season with the Arizona Coyotes. Like, geez, I want to say like 3 or 4, 5 years back, right? And then afterwards did pretty much nothing for a while. And now, it's almost like a renaissance, right? Like that seems to be Lacombe's trajectory as well, where he's doing like, promising things right now, but who knows? And PT, hats off.
Yeah.
Absolutely magnificent.
Yeah, his goals are magnificent. Absolutely wonderful goals. The best goals. Some would say the greatest goals they've ever seen. Truly wonderful, record-breaking, really. But yeah, last question here. We have Armin. This is from, he asked in the chat, but I also saw it on Twitter. Rank these D for long-term rest of season, mainly playoffs, standard cats with hits and plus-minus, but no blocks. Tays, Jones, Matheson, and Fowler. So my personal order is Matheson with an asterisk, Jones, Tays, Fowler. Matheson with an asterisk because the Habs are in that wild card race. Like if they find themselves in a playoff spot, like that they're buyers at trade deadline, they're probably keeping Matheson. So yeah, at that point, if they keep him for the playoffs, yes, give me Matheson. But if he gets dealt, I don't see him maintaining like that kind of primed. He's not going to get traded into a similar situation. He's going to be a depth piece on someone's team, which
sure,
then tanks him hard.
Yeah, he's not going to get it. He's not going to get into a Trouba situation where he becomes a fantasy gold mine immediately. Yeah, I would say the only one with Matheson is like all that jazz about Hudson made me kind of hesitant a little bit because I know Matheson right now is obviously like they're in a dagger war, so to speak, right? Like for whomever could reclaim or recreate the. Oh, Armin, sorry, just to jump in, Armin, to your comment, Alan's.
I got it. Yeah, I say Jones.
Oh yeah,
after
Jones,
Matheson.
Gotcha. Yeah. I think the only one is Taves and Fowler might be reversed for me. I think Taves is just a better, I guess, fantasy. Sorry, he's a better real life player than fantasy relevant player, and Fowler I think is the inverse of that. So that's aside from that, yeah.
And that means if let's say again, Fowler's deployment isn't concrete. Like for all we know, as soon as Folk gets back, like he could get bumped down. And I mean, still Fowler has been putting up even strength points, which is great, but really you want, especially down the stretch, you want the greatest ceiling you can get.
Absolutely.
And you need that power play for it. So that's it for the mailbag. Weekend preview. So best schedules. The only team that has Thursday, Friday, Sunday is Carolina. And just go check on Brent Burns right now. He's 58% owned. It looks like the Ty Smith experiment is over. Brent Burns is practicing on Power Play 1 today.
And I want to say the other big news as well was that Freddie was seen practicing and skating today, right? So that probably
it's good. It means he's tracking right on track with his injury, but I think he's still got a few weeks to go.
For sure. But I would also say any Kachekov owners, just be aware.
I would say now maybe if you got an IR spot, you're comfortable in your placement, maybe a stash Freddie, because it feels like once they have both, they'll probably 1A, 1B it, or play Freddie until he sneezes and hurts himself again.
Until he sneezes. Oh, man. The other one I was hearing, too, that was terrible is supposedly this entire time, and I'm so sorry for any owners that played IR-only leagues, Carolina only kept him as out this entire time, supposedly. No IR, no anything. It was crazy.
Ouch. Yeah, and that's why IR Plus is the shiz. And then, kind of everyone else on that team, throw a dart. They should be available. Jordan Stahl. I know we're both kind of fans of him, Jay. He actually is on a little bit of a hot streak right now. I think he was involved with both goals against Tampa last night.
He is the inverse Kotkaniemi. Because Kotkaniemi, you look at him and you're like, the deployment's there. He's got it. Like, obviously, it's a depressed deployment compared to, other maybe L2 PP2s normally. But you look at the two and you're like, okay, this guy only gets line 3. This guy gets line 2, power play 2. I'm obviously going to go for the deployment. And it feels like at a certain point, I should know the shit I'm getting myself into when I'm choosing Kotkaniemi over and over deployment based, and I see time and time again that old man Stahl gets things done. Maybe at this point, Alan, I should just go for Stahl.
Yeah. And then the other guys out there probably Orlov, Roslovic, Kotkaniemi. But the big guys they're all snatched up. Aho, Svech, Nietzsche's. Jarvis, they're all snatched up, but most of the other guys, it's like Seattle, throw a dart, pick one up, see what happens. The only team, surprisingly, Friday, Sunday, Detroit, just go check on Patrick Kane, 53%, line 2, power play 1. I'm assuming it's Simon Edvinson, or Simone, whatever. He's 4%. He does put up some nice riffs. It stumbles backwards into the occasional point. I was higher on that point upside, but then I remembered that they took him off the pairing with Cider. which is definitely not great. But I think the only other one for me is Andrew Kopp, 1%. Like right now, he's centering DeBrincat and Kane. So nice even strength deployment there. Did you have anyone, Jay?
It's man, like I'm so tempted because that team is obviously like on fire right now, but I don't know, like it's tough to suggest any of the guys when any of the guys on the given night could pop off or, absolutely deflate. What's their situation in net? Again, we already suggested Talbot, right?
They just
So,
recalled Billy Huso, which is a no-go for me. I don't know about you.
yeah, and Talbot, yeah, we already mentioned him. Yeah, so yeah.
I think he was out there. I think it's in my notes, or maybe in my notes. Yes, no,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not in my
yeah.
notes. I
It was
don't know what
already
percentage owned he is.
37%, I think, from what I see here.
Okay, so
Yeah,
Talbot's
so
pretty widely available.
pretty accessible.
So we got some goalie stream options. I kind of like what we did last weekend, Jay. I think we just we go through them and pick like a winner. Like this
Yeah, I'm
is
down for that.
probably the first guy. So Chicago at Detroit versus Detroit, which doesn't sound right, but that's what I wrote.
Home and home.
LA, you have at Winnipeg, at Calgary, which is good. They're around the road. Those games shouldn't get postponed then. I was thinking about that earlier. Montreal at Washington versus Dallas. San Jose at Utah versus Minnesota. Both San Jose goalies are pretty widely available. Out of Forgia, for some reason, is still 50% owned. Utah versus San Jose versus Islanders. Vegemilka is 45% owned, so I'm surprised he's not a little higher. Vancouver at Carolina at Toronto. I don't think you're getting either goalie there. Washington versus Montreal at Nashville. Lindgren is 40% owned. Winnipeg versus LA versus Colorado. I don't know if I like Comrie for either of those games. That might almost be one where they start Hellboy back to back. For me, the Montreal is high risk, high reward. Like a freaking Dobes put on a clinic against Colorado.
Yes. Oh man, I couldn't believe it.
Freaking believe that. I like Lindgren versus Montreal.
I love Lindgren versus Montreal. Oh man, that is like either, right? It doesn't even. I know they just split games regardless, but
Lindgren on either, yeah. But
incredible.
then at Nashville, you're looking at trying to fit him in on a Saturday. But yeah, no, I would say to me that seems like the kind of the winner. Or I like Riddick versus Calgary. I think he was like 10% owned. But no, I think we both agree Lindgren's the winner there. So Saturday, Sunday back-to-backs, Anaheim, at Philly, at Carolina. Both goalies are actually below 50%. Dostal's 47. And crazy enough, like I'm stray a little bit here. I saw another, I think it was put out by Money Puck, like the top goalies by goal saved again above average or whatever. Once again, Dostal and Gibson, top two on the list. So again, they're going to get you great rate stats probably, but wins, if you need a win, probably not your guys. Dallas at Montreal, at Ottawa. Casey DeSmith is 7%. Minnesota's at San Jose, at Vegas. Fleury's 16%. Ottawa, both their goalies should be pretty widely available with Ullmark out. You got Forsberg and Miralainen at Pittsburgh versus Dallas. Pittsburgh versus Ottawa versus Tampa. Both Nedeljkovic and Jari were widely available, but I'm not interested. Seattle at Buffalo, at Detroit. Decord did come back. I missed that. And Grew is 11%, but Grubauer is terrible. No, thank you. Tampa at Jersey, at Pittsburgh. You got Jonas Johansson, who has been pretty good as of late, but he did drop that game against, I believe it was the Sharks. But that whole California road trip was terrible for Tampa. It was not pretty. Vegas, Samsonov is 63%, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't look like you're getting him. I feel like that's a lot of people probably just picked him up and held him based on his history in Toronto. I don't know, Jay. Maybe Fleury versus San Jose. None of these are a clear winner, I think.
The problem with goalies too is it's just too dependent. Like Some are percentage based. Some
Oh yeah,
are
it could be like the
volume
sweetest
based.
matchup, but you could still lose. That's the beauty of
Yeah.
hockey.
But then it also depends so much on the league type, right? I would say, for example, if you're like winning, if you're winning your category, the strategy to choose would also differ from if you're losing in your category. If there are volume stats with saves or no volume stats, like shutouts are a random factor to throw into all of them. Just based on what I'm understanding, if I'm going to go volume based, I think anything for those Anaheim guys would be good because Philly is kind of more of a toss up, but Carolina throws anything and everything live directly onto the
Oh
net,
yeah,
right? So I
and I
think that
wonder
variety
if because it seems like it seems like Dostal gets at least 2 out of 3 starts regularly. I wonder if Dostal gets Carolina and Gibson gets Philly.
I can see it. I can see it. So like for volume starts, I definitely think what kind of league scoring do you guys play?
Well, so Armin, yeah, that's well, it's I guess it's more trying to give advice on. Armin's asking what kind of league scoring you guys play in. I feel like I enjoy leagues where goalie scoring is generous to volume. Wins are nice, but like it encourages you to even have goalies on bad teams like the Ducks.
Yeah.
But I see the logic for both ways.
Yeah, in the leagues I play in. Geez, I complain to Alan all the time, but I play in so many leagues.
Oh,
But the
okay. Yeah,
league,
so points or cats.
oh,
I
points,
prefer
points,
points personally.
for sure, points. Like the big one against cats, I just have is it's so wild to consider in a
Too
cats
many
league.
buckets.
Yeah, but it's like you could have Austin Matthews score a hat trick and be so angry he didn't get a hit. You know what I mean? And like you lost the week. And there's like that sort of logic is kind of baffles me a little bit. Whereas like,
But I get it
hat,
though. It encourages you to roster totally
a
different
diversified,
players from a points league.
100%, 100%. But like in terms of goalies specifically within a points league style, yeah, like I definitely have leagues where my goalies are the only players that can hypothetically lose points, right? With like goals
Yeah.
against, which means that the scoring benefiting them for like a shutout or a win or for a save is going to be very, very positive to indicate have to have in a game to game basis the highest of highs. And then also, obviously, with being able to go negative, they automatically have the lowest of lows. If you like gut them too much, then just nobody rosters goalies in your league, doesn't have them valued. But yeah, like in that sort of league setting where goalies are, I guess, like volume rewarded, I think Anaheim is the target. And then I think, honestly, if you're going, no, Armin, we don't do plus minus in the scoring.
No.
Um,
No, thank you.
no,
I feel like especially like it discourages. I personally I agree with the argument I heard way back in the day. Plus minus, it just discourages holding good players on bad teams.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
The other one is any league formatting that rewards you for inaction and henceforth leads to a, I guess like it's the crazy one where if you have plus minus, you can end up with a guy that wins because he didn't play his guys enough and the other guy played more and then he got negative. It's a weird league scoring setup to reward inactive managers. Like it makes very little, the way you follow it doesn't track. But if I was going not for volume but for percentages and all that, I think the goalie to target here probably is DeSmith, isn't it?
you think for the win, possibly.
For the win, right?
But man, that freaking Delbus, I'm gun shy of that Delbus kid now. Like freaking putting on a clinic against Florida and Colorado, and just Montreal's rolling right now. I'm not sure that's a.
Well, I'd assume he get Ottawa, right? And if he gets Ottawa, then I don't know. It is really tough. Like that Atlantic division is really confusing right now, to be honest, Alan. I don't know what's
Like I
going
said,
on
that
in
whole
those
Eastern
rankings.
wildcard race is going to be fun.
Yeah,
But next week prep, no one's got the Sunday Monday overlap, so you rest easy there. But the best schedule looks like Edmonton, 4 games, 2 off nights. And then the worst schedule, there were a few teams with like 2 games, but they're like 1 off night or 2 off nights. But the worst is Boston with 2 games, 0 off nights. But yeah, that is going to go ahead and wrap it. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Twitter, or just pop by the Discord, and you can even tag us using the @FHFH Paraterran. We'll be back this weekend with Sit Start Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and then your Week 15 previews cooking. Good night, everyone, and good mental health.
We will pick you up later.